I inherited my grandfather's house when he died. Nobody else in the family wanted it. Too remote, too run down, too many memories of a man who'd become increasingly strange in his final years. But I was between jobs and behind on rent, so a free house in rural Alabama seemed like a gift. The house sat on 40 acres of pine forest, the nearest neighbor 3 miles down a dirt road. The place was old but solid, built in the 1950s. My grandfather had lived there alone for 30 years after my grandmother passed. I moved in on a Tuesday in August, spent the first few days cleaning, sorting through his things. He'd left everything: furniture, clothes, stacks of papers and books. I found myself putting off the deeper cleaning, the kind that would mean really erasing him from the place. The whistling started on my 4th night. I was in bed, almost asleep, when I heard it. A tune, simple and repetitive, coming from outside. It sounded like it was coming from the tree line, maybe 50 yards from the house. Just some hillbilly walking through the woods, I thought. People did that here. Hikers, hunters, locals who'd walked these paths their whole lives. But it was 2:47 a.m. I'd looked at the clock when the sound woke me. The whistling continued for maybe 5 minutes, then stopped. I listened for a while longer, heard nothing else, and went back to sleep. The next night, same time, 2:47 a.m., the same tune, the same distance away. This time, I got up and looked out the window. The yard was visible in the moonlight, overgrown grass, the old shed, the edge of the forest beyond. I couldn't see anyone. The whistling stopped after a few minutes. The 3rd night, I was ready. I'd left my shoes by the bed and put a flashlight on the nightstand. When the whistling started at 2:47, I was up immediately, grabbed the flashlight, and went out the back door. The night air was humid and still. Crickets chirped in the grass. And there, from the tree line, the whistling continued. Same tune, same volume. I walked toward it, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Hello? Someone there? The whistling stopped. I stood there, listening. Nothing but crickets and the distant sound of wind in the pines. This is private property. You need to leave. No response. I walked closer to the tree line, sweeping the flashlight back and forth. Didn't see anyone. The trees were too thick to see far into the forest. I stood there for 10 minutes waiting, finally gave up and went back inside, locked the door. The whistling didn't start again that night, but it came back the next night and the night after that. Always at 2:47 a.m., always the same tune, always from roughly the same spot at the tree line. I started sleeping poorly. I'd lie awake waiting for it, and when it came, I'd feel this spike of anger mixed with fear. Someone was fucking with me deliberately. This was targeted. After a week, I called the sheriff's office, explained the situation. "Could be kids," the deputy said. "Could be someone who knew your grandfather. Some folks around here didn't like him much toward the end." "Why not?" "He got paranoid, accusatory. Thought people were on his property all the time. Filed a lot of complaints that turned out to be nothing." "So you're not going to do anything?" "I'll have someone drive by a few times this week, but unless we catch someone in the act, there's not much we can do about whistling in the woods." They never caught anyone. 2 weeks in, the whistling got closer. Still at 2:47 a.m., still the same tune, but now it was coming from the yard instead of the tree line. Maybe 30 feet from the house. I'd look out the window and see nothing. I'd go outside with the flashlight and find no one. I set up a motion sensor light in the backyard. The next night, it triggered at 2:47 a.m. I looked out the window and the yard was lit up, bright as day. Empty. But I could hear the whistling clear as anything, coming from right in the middle of that empty, illuminated space. That's when I started thinking this might not be a person. I don't believe in ghosts, never have. But standing there looking at that empty yard while listening to whistling that had no visible source, I felt something crack in my certainty about how the world worked. The next day, I started going through my grandfather's papers more carefully, looking for anything that might explain this. I found the journals in his bedroom closet, 3 cardboard boxes full of composition notebooks, dates on the spines going back 15 years. I opened the most recent one, dated a few months before his death. The entries were short, just a line or two each day, mostly mundane stuff: what he ate, what he watched on TV, notes about the weather. Then I found it. 2:47 a.m. He's whistling again. Closer tonight. My skin went cold. I flipped back through the pages, found more entries. 2:47 a.m. The whistling. Same as always. Can't sleep. Waiting for it. Why won't he stop? I pulled out another journal from 3 years earlier. The entries about whistling were there too. And in the one from 5 years before that. And 10 years. My grandfather had been hearing the whistling for at least 15 years. In the later journals, his handwriting got shaky, the entries more disturbed. He was at the window tonight. I saw his face. Police came. They don't believe me. No one believes me. I know he's real. I know what I hear. I sat on the floor surrounded by these journals, feeling sick. My grandfather hadn't been crazy or paranoid. He'd been terrorized for years by the same thing that was now happening to me. That night, the whistling came from right outside my bedroom window. I was lying in bed, wide awake, waiting for 2:47. When it came, the sound was so close it felt like someone was standing with their face pressed against the glass. I grabbed the flashlight and threw back the curtains. Nothing. The window showed only my own reflection against the darkness outside. But I could still hear it, the whistling, right there, inches away. I backed away from the window, heart pounding. The sound continued for 5 minutes, then stopped. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. The next day, I packed a bag and drove into town, rented a motel room. I wasn't going back until I had answers or reinforcements or something. I called my uncle, my grandfather's son. "Did Grandpa ever talk to you about whistling? About someone on his property?" "Oh God, not you too," he said. "Yeah, he talked about it constantly the last few years. Drove us all crazy. We thought he was developing dementia." "Did you ever hear it yourself?" "No, none of us did. We'd come visit and he'd insist we'd hear it that night, but we never did." "Why not?" "What do you mean, why not?" "Because there was nothing there. He was imagining it." "I'm hearing it too." Silence on the other end. Then, "You're stressed. New place, dealing with his death. Your mind is playing tricks." Every night at 2:47 a.m., the same tune, getting closer each time. "Then sell the house. Get out of there if it's bothering you that much." But I couldn't sell. Not yet. The estate was still in probate. And besides, some stubborn part of me refused to be driven out by whistling. I stayed in the motel for 3 nights. On the 4th night, I went back. The house felt wrong when I walked in. Not obviously wrong, just off. Like someone had been there. I walked through every room, checking. Nothing seemed disturbed. That night, I set up my phone to record audio while I slept. If the whistling happened, I wanted proof. At 2:47 a.m., I woke to the sound. It was inside the house, in the hallway outside my bedroom door. I lay there frozen, listening to that simple tune being whistled in my own hallway by something I couldn't see. The door was closed, locked from the inside, but the whistling was right there, on the other side. I grabbed my phone and checked the recording. It was running. I could see the audio levels spiking with the whistling. This was real. It was being recorded. I wasn't imagining it. The whistling moved. I heard it go down the hallway, toward the living room. Floorboards creaked under weight that shouldn't be there. I wanted to stay in that room with the door locked forever, but I forced myself to move. Grabbed the baseball bat I'd started keeping by the bed, unlocked the door, opened it slowly. The hallway was empty. The whistling had stopped. I walked through the house, bat raised, checking every room. Kitchen, living room, bathroom, all empty. Every door and window was still locked from the inside. I checked the recording on my phone. The whistling was there, clear and undeniable. And underneath it, I could hear the footsteps. Something had been in my house. The next morning, I read through more of my grandfather's journals, looking for anything about the whistling coming inside. I found it in a journal from 2 years before his death. He's in the house now. I hear him every night, walking around, whistling that goddamn tune. I see him sometimes in the corner of my eye, but when I turn, he's gone. I'm not crazy. I know what I hear. I know what I see. Called police again. They did a welfare check, told my kids I'm losing my mind. Maybe I am, but he's still here. Why me? What does he want? I tried leaving, stayed with John for a week, came back and he was waiting. The first night back, the whistling was inside my bedroom, right next to my bed. I felt breath on my face. I stopped reading, felt breath on my face. My grandfather had experienced this for years. It had driven him to isolation, to paranoia. His family had thought he was crazy. He died alone in this house, still hearing the whistling, still being tormented. And now it had me. That night, I didn't wait in the bedroom. I sat in the living room with all the lights on, bat across my lap, waiting for 2:47. When it came, the whistling started in my bedroom. I heard it clearly through the closed door. Then the door opened. Not violently, not slowly, just opened, smooth and casual, like someone was walking through. The whistling moved down the hallway toward me. I stood up, gripping the bat. "Show yourself!" The whistling continued, getting closer. I could track it by sound, passing the bathroom, passing the spare bedroom, entering the living room, right in front of me. I swung the bat through empty air, swung again, connected with nothing. The whistling stopped. I stood there breathing hard, bat raised, staring at nothing. Then I felt it, breath on the back of my neck. I spun around. The whistling started again, behind me now. I swung, nothing. It was playing with me. "What do you want?" I screamed. The whistling stopped. For a moment, there was total silence. Then I heard a voice, quiet, raspy, right next to my ear. "This is my house." I ran, grabbed my keys and my phone and ran out the front door, got in my car and drove away, didn't look back. I'm writing this from a hotel 200 miles away. I'm not going back. I don't care about the inheritance, about the property, about any of it. My grandfather spent 15 years being tortured by something in that house. It drove him mad, isolated him from his family, made his last years a living hell. I won't let it do the same to me. But I know it's not over, because last night in this hotel room, I heard it. At 2:47 a.m., the whistling. Faint, distant, but unmistakable. The same tune. I was working late, again. Third night that week, I'd been up past midnight finishing a project that my boss needed by Friday. I was a freelance designer, worked from my apartment, kept terrible hours. The apartment was a one-bedroom in an older building, second floor. I'd lived there for 2 years, never had problems. Quiet neighbors, decent landlord, safe neighborhood. It was 12:47 a.m. I was at my desk in the living room, headphones on, deep into fixing some color corrections, when I heard something that made me pause the music. Footsteps. In my apartment. Heavy footsteps, coming from my bedroom. I pulled off my headphones and listened. The footsteps were clear now, slow and deliberate, coming down the short hallway from my bedroom toward the living room. My heart started pounding. I stood up, looking toward the hallway entrance. The footsteps continued, getting closer. Then they stopped, right at the edge of the living room where the hallway opened up, like someone was standing there, just out of sight. "Hello?" My voice came out shaky. No response. I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911, started backing toward the front door. Then the banging started. It came from my bedroom, violent, thunderous banging on the door. The sound was so loud it felt like the walls were shaking. Bang! 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 Someone was trying to break down my bedroom door from the inside. But the footsteps had just come from there, had come out into the hallway. So who was inside banging? I ran to the front door, yanked it open, stumbled into the hallway. Other apartment doors were opening. My neighbor across the hall, an older woman, looked out. "What's that noise?" she asked. "Someone's in my apartment." The banging stopped. Sudden silence. We stood there staring at each other. Then I heard it. More footsteps. Inside my apartment. Running toward the front door. I backed away. The door was still open. If someone was running toward it, they'd be here in seconds. My neighbor saw my face and ducked back into her apartment, slamming her door. I stood there, frozen, watching my open doorway. The footsteps stopped. Right at the door. Right where I'd be able to see them if someone was there. But there was no one. "I'm calling the police," I said to the empty doorway. I did. Told them someone was in my apartment. They said they'd send a unit. I waited in the hallway, phone in hand, watching my door. The apartment was silent now. Nothing moved, nothing made a sound. The police arrived 12 minutes later. 2 officers. I explained what happened. They looked skeptical, but went inside, hands on their weapons. I waited outside while they cleared the apartment. It only took a few minutes. When they came back out, one of them was shaking his head. "There's nobody in there." "Check the bedroom, the closets, under the bed." We did. The apartment is empty. All the windows are locked from the inside, no signs of forced entry, no signs anyone's been there except you. "I heard footsteps. I heard someone banging on my bedroom door." Could have been from another apartment. Sound carries weird in these old buildings. "It was in my apartment. I know what I heard." They looked at each other. That look people give when they think you're crazy or on drugs. "You been drinking tonight?" one asked. "No." "Taking any medications? Sleep aids? Anything like that?" "No, I was working. I heard someone in my apartment." They walked through one more time with me, showed me how every window was locked, how the front door was the only way in and out, and it had been locked when I got home. "Maybe you fell asleep at your desk," one suggested. "Had a nightmare. Sleep paralysis can cause auditory hallucinations." I wasn't asleep. I was working. But doubt was creeping in now. Had I been asleep? I'd been tired, really tired. Maybe I had dozed off and dreamed the whole thing. The police left. My neighbor came out after they were gone. "You okay, honey?" "I don't know. Did you hear the footsteps? The banging?" She hesitated. "I heard banging. That's what made me open my door. It was very loud." "See? I wasn't imagining it." "But," she looked uncomfortable, "I heard it coming from the hallway, not from your apartment, like someone was banging on your front door from out here." "That's impossible. I was in the living room. No one was at the door." She didn't say anything else, just patted my arm and went back inside. I stood there trying to make sense of it. If she'd heard banging from the hallway, but I'd heard it from my bedroom door, and the police found nothing. I went back into my apartment. Everything looked normal, untouched. I walked through slowly, checking everything again myself. The bedroom was empty. The closet was empty. Under the bed, behind the shower curtain, in the kitchen cabinets, empty, empty, empty. I checked the windows again, all locked. Checked the front door. The deadbolt had been locked when I got home. I remembered unlocking it. No one had been here. No one could have been here. But I'd heard them. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room with a knife from the kitchen, lights on, watching the hallway entrance until the sun came up. The next day, I called my brother, told him what happened. He offered to come stay with me for a few days. I said no. I felt stupid enough already. That night, I made sure everything was locked, checked twice, set up my phone to record audio while I worked, just in case it happened again. It didn't. The night was quiet. I started to relax. Maybe the police were right. Maybe I'd been half asleep and confused, stressed from work, not sleeping enough. My mind had played tricks. But 3 days later, it happened again. Same time, 12:47 a.m. I was working at my desk when I heard the footsteps in my bedroom. This time, I grabbed my phone immediately, started recording video. I pointed it at the hallway entrance. The footsteps came closer, slow, heavy, deliberate. I watched the empty hallway entrance while the footsteps approached. They were right there, right on the other side of the wall, about to emerge into the living room. They stopped, right at the edge, right where they'd stopped before. On my phone screen, I could see the empty space. Nothing there. Then, the banging started, from the bedroom, violent and loud, shaking the walls. I kept recording, kept the camera pointed at the hallway while backing toward the front door. The banging stopped. Footsteps again, running toward me. I bolted out the door, left it open, recorded the empty doorway while standing in the hall. Nothing came out. I called the police again. Same routine. They came, they searched, they found nothing. But this time, I had the recording. I showed them. They could hear the footsteps on it, could hear the banging, could see there was nothing visible. Could be pipes, one officer said. Old buildings, the plumbing makes noise. That's not pipes. Or maybe the building's settling. Temperature changes at night. Wood and metal expand and contract. Can sound like footsteps. They didn't believe me, and watching the video again, even I started to doubt. The footsteps did sound like they could be plumbing. The banging could be something structural. Maybe I was losing my mind? I started sleeping at my brother's place, told my landlord I needed to break my lease. He was sympathetic, but said I'd have to pay the penalty, 2 months' rent. I didn't care. I couldn't stay there. But I had to go back to pack. Took 2 days moving my stuff out. My brother helped. We worked fast, both of us nervous, though he tried to hide it. On the last day, as we were carrying the final boxes out, my brother stopped in the hallway. Did you hear that? What? Footsteps. In the bedroom. My blood ran cold. You heard them too? He looked at me, his face pale. What the fuck was in your apartment? I don't know. We left the boxes and ran, didn't go back. I told the landlord to keep the security deposit, keep whatever he wanted. I was done. That was 2 months ago. I'm living with my brother now, sleeping on his couch, still having trouble sleeping, because sometimes, late at night, I hear them. Faint, distant, but unmistakable. Footsteps. Coming from somewhere in the apartment. In his apartment. My brother hears them too now. He hasn't said anything, but I can see it in his face when they start, that look of confused terror. I don't know what I brought with me when I left that place, but it followed me. And now, it's starting again. I worked for a property management company that specialized in foreclosures. My job was simple. Go to houses that had been repossessed by banks, clear them out, assess damage, make them ready for resale. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid okay. Most of the houses were depressing. You'd find family photos left behind, kids' toys, sometimes notes that broke your heart. But you learned not to think about it too much. Just do the job and move on. The house on Maple Street seemed like any other at first. Small ranch style, built in the 70s, badly maintained. The owner had died 6 months earlier, a guy in his 70s who lived alone. No family came forward. The bank took possession after the estate couldn't cover the mortgage. I showed up on a Tuesday morning with my clipboard and camera. The key was in the lockbox. I let myself in. The smell hit me first. Not decay, the body had been removed months ago. Just that musty, closed-up smell of a place no one had lived in for a while. The inside was cluttered, but not filthy. Furniture from decades ago, stacks of newspapers, a TV from the 90s, the usual accumulation of an old person living alone. I started taking photos for the report. Living room, kitchen, bathroom. Noted water damage in the ceiling, cracked tiles in the bathroom, outdated wiring. In the bedroom, I found a desk covered with papers, bill notices, final notices, most of them, foreclosure warnings. The guy had been in financial trouble for years before he died. And a journal, a thick notebook, the kind with a fake leather cover. I shouldn't have opened it. Wasn't part of my job, but something made me flip through it. The entries were obsessive, pages and pages of times and dates, phone numbers, names. March 3rd, 2:17 p.m. Maria Rodriguez, answered on third ring. March 5th, 11:43 a.m. James Chen, answered on first ring. March 8th, 9:22 p.m. Unknown caller, didn't answer. Pages of this, months of entries. Sometimes he'd add notes. Maria sounded distracted, asked who was calling, hung up quickly. James seemed friendly at first, got suspicious when I wouldn't identify myself. I flipped to the end of the journal. The last entry was dated 2 weeks before his death. They stopped answering. All of them. They know. Have to find new ones. I closed the journal, feeling uneasy. This guy had been calling people. Random people or people he knew? What was he doing? I set it aside and finished the inspection. The house was salvageable with some work. I made my notes, took the last photos, and headed for the front door. That's when the phone rang. I stopped, looked around. The ringing was coming from the kitchen. A landline phone mounted on the wall, avocado green, probably original to the house. I walked over to it. The phone kept ringing. I picked up. Hello? Silence. Then a voice. Male, elderly, rough. Who is this? I'm with Riverside Property Management. Who's calling? This is my house. What are you doing in my house? My stomach tightened. Sir, this house has been foreclosed. If you're calling about the property, you'll need to contact... Get out of my house. The line went dead. I hung up, confused. Maybe a relative, someone who didn't know about the foreclosure. But the voice had sounded so aggressive, so certain. I grabbed my stuff and left, made it to my car and sat there for a moment, looking back at the house. The phone rang again. I could hear it through the open door. I'd forgotten to close it in my rush to leave. Faint but unmistakable, ringing and ringing. I got out, walked back, closed the door firmly. The ringing stopped. Back at the office, I filed my report, mentioned the call, figured it might be important. My supervisor frowned. The phone should be disconnected. Services were terminated when the owner died. Well, it rang. I answered it. Must have been a mix-up. I'll make sure it's cut off. The next day, I got called back to the house. They needed more photos of the attic, something about the home inspection report. I really didn't want to go back, but it was my job. I arrived around noon, let myself in again. The house was exactly as I'd left it. I headed straight for the attic access in the hallway. The phone rang. I froze, looked toward the kitchen. The phone was ringing, same as yesterday. My supervisor had said it would be disconnected, but there it was, ringing. I walked to the kitchen, staring at the phone, picked it up. Hello? You came back. The same voice from yesterday, rough, elderly, familiar somehow. Who is this? This is my house. I told you to leave. The phone is supposed to be disconnected. How are you calling? This is my house, my phone, my property. Sir, you need to stop calling here. This house has been foreclosed. I know what happened. They took everything. They took my house. His voice rose, angry, desperate. But it's still mine. Do you understand? Mine. I'm hanging up now. You answered the phone. You're in the journal now. I'll be watching. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, heart pounding. In the journal now? What did that mean? I looked at the desk in the bedroom where I'd seen the journal yesterday. It was still there. I walked over and opened it. Flipped to the last page with writing. There was a new entry, in the same handwriting as all the others. May 14th, 11:52 a.m. Unknown, property management. Answered on second ring. Male, young, dismissed warning. Today's date. The approximate time I'd answered yesterday. But that was impossible. The owner was dead, had been dead for months. I'd dropped the journal and backed away. My phone buzzed, a text from my supervisor. Phone company confirmed. Landline at Maple Street House has been disconnected for 6 months. No service. If it's ringing, it's an electrical issue. Don't touch it. No service for 6 months. But I'd just talked to someone on it, twice. The phone rang again. I didn't answer. I grabbed my stuff and left. Didn't take the attic photos, didn't close the door, just left. At the office, I told my supervisor everything, showed him the text about the journal entry. He looked concerned but skeptical. Sounds like someone's pranking you, maybe a squatter in the house. I checked the whole house, no one's there. Then I don't know what to tell you. But you need to finish the job. The bank's waiting on those attic photos. Send someone else. You're the only one available. Just go, take the pictures, and get out. 1 hour tops. I thought about refusing, but I needed this job. And in daylight, with my supervisor knowing exactly where I was, it felt manageable. I went back that afternoon, parked outside, and sat there for a moment, gathering courage. The house looked normal, just a sad little ranch house with an overgrown lawn. I let myself in for the 3rd time. The phone was quiet. I went straight to the attic access, pulled down the ladder, climbed up. The attic was hot and dusty. I took the photos quickly, trying not to breathe too much of the dusty air. Insulation, roof beams, a couple of old boxes. Nothing unusual. I climbed back down and was folding up the ladder when the phone rang. I ignored it, pushed the attic access back into place. The phone kept ringing. 10 rings, 20. It wasn't stopping. I walked toward the front door. The phone rang and rang. I was at the door when I realized I'd left my clipboard on the kitchen counter. Fuck. The phone was still ringing. I could just leave the clipboard, but it had all my notes, my company ID clipped to it. I went back to the kitchen. The phone was ringing so loud it seemed impossible for such an old device. The sound filled the house. My clipboard was right there, next to the phone. I grabbed it. The phone stopped ringing. In the silence, I heard something else. A voice coming from the bedroom. A whisper, too quiet to make out words, but definitely a voice. I should have run, but some stupid part of me needed to know. I walked to the bedroom doorway and looked in. The journal on the desk was open. Pages were turning by themselves, flipping forward rapidly like caught in a wind, but there was no wind. The pages stopped. The journal lay open to a blank page. As I watched, words began to appear, written in that same handwriting, forming letter by letter. May 14th, 3:47 p.m. Unknown. Property management. Answered again. Male, young, still here, watching him. I ran, dropped my clipboard, dropped everything, and ran out of that house. I didn't go back to the office. I drove straight home and called in sick. The next day, I quit. Didn't give notice, just quit. My supervisor tried to talk me out of it, but when I told him I wouldn't go back to that house under any circumstances, he stopped arguing. They sent someone else to finish the job, a guy named Marcus. He went to the house the following week. He quit 3 days later. I ran into him at a coffee shop a month after. We recognized each other from the office. "You went to the Maple Street house," I said. His face went pale. "How'd you know?" "I was the one there before you." "Did the phone?" "Yeah." We looked at each other. He shook his head. "I answered it," he said quietly. 3 times. The last time, the voice told me he was coming, that he knew where I lived now. "Has anything happened?" "Not yet, but I keep getting calls from blocked numbers. When I answer, there's just breathing. And I found something yesterday." "What?" "A journal on my doorstep. Old leather notebook. Inside there were entries about me. Times I came and went from my apartment, times I went to work, times I answered the phone." He was shaking now. "It's dated with tomorrow's date, like he's planning ahead, recording what I'm going to do before I do it." "You need to go to the police." "And tell them what? That a dead guy is calling me and writing about me in a magic journal? They'll think I'm insane." He wasn't wrong. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "I don't know. Move, maybe? Change my number? I just know I can't keep living like this, waiting for something to happen." I never saw Marcus again after that. I heard he did move, left the state entirely. I got lucky. I never answered the phone enough times. 3 seems to be the threshold. Answer 3 times and you're in the journal permanently. You're on his list. But sometimes my phone rings from a blocked number, and when I'm stupid enough to answer, I hear that same elderly voice, rough and angry. "You were in my house." I hang up immediately now, but he's still there, still calling, still watching. And sometimes I wonder if not answering enough times just delays it. If eventually, one way or another, everyone who enters that house ends up in his journal, ends up on his list, ends up answering when they shouldn't. I was 7 years old when I first saw her. My bedroom was on the 2nd floor of our house, facing the backyard. It was a normal suburban house, normal neighborhood, nothing special about it. I woke up one night, I don't know what time it was, and saw her at the window. A woman in a white dress, pale skin, dark hair, standing outside my 2nd-story window, just standing there, looking in at me. I wasn't scared at first. I was confused. How could someone be standing outside a 2nd-story window? We didn't have a balcony or a tree close enough. I sat up in bed, staring at her. She stared back. Her face was sad, I remember that. Not angry, not threatening, just sad. Then she faded. Not like walking away, she just became transparent and disappeared. I turned on my lamp and sat there for a while, trying to understand what I'd seen. Eventually decided it must have been a dream. I'd woken up still half asleep and imagined it. But 2 nights later, she was there again. Same window, same white dress, same sad face. This time I was fully awake. I'd been reading with my flashlight under the covers when I felt something. That feeling of being watched. I looked up and there she was. We stared at each other for maybe 30 seconds. Then she raised one hand and pressed it against the window glass. I could see her palm, her fingers pressed flat against the glass from the outside. Then she faded again. I ran to my parents' room. "There's someone at my window!" My dad got up, went to my room, looked out the window. "There's nobody there, buddy." "I saw her, a woman in white." "You had a nightmare." "I wasn't asleep." He checked the window, locked from the inside, looked down at the yard below. No ladder, no way anyone could reach that window. "See? No one could get up here. You were dreaming." But I knew I wasn't. She came back every few nights, always the same, standing at my window. Sometimes she'd press her hand to the glass. Sometimes she'd just stare. Sometimes her lips would move like she was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't hear any sound. I told my parents every time. They got frustrated, took me to a doctor. The doctor said it was night terrors, a common thing for kids, prescribed some sleep medication. The medication didn't help. She still came. After a few months, I stopped telling my parents. What was the point? They didn't believe me. I learned to live with it. When she appeared, I'd pull the covers over my head and wait for her to go away. By the time I was 9, she'd become a regular part of my life. Not scary anymore, just there. Like living with a ghost that couldn't hurt you, only watch. Then my little brother started having nightmares. He was 4. His bedroom was down the hall from mine. One night I heard him screaming and my parents rushing to his room. I got up and followed. My brother was sitting up in bed, crying, pointing at his window. "The white lady!" he sobbed. "She was at the window!" I felt something cold slide through my chest. "What did you say?" "The white lady! She was looking at me!" My parents tried to calm him down, told him it was just a dream, but I pulled my dad aside. "What did he say she looked like?" "He said a lady in a white dress, but he probably heard you talking about your nightmares." "I never heard him. I stopped telling you about her 2 years ago." My dad frowned. "What?" "She's still there. I see her all the time. I just stopped telling you because you wouldn't believe me." We all went to my brother's room. I asked him to describe what he saw. A lady in a white dress with black hair. She was sad. Exactly what I'd seen, exactly the same description. "Where was she?" I asked. He pointed at his window. Second story, no way to reach it from outside. My parents looked at each other. I could see doubt creeping into their certainty. "Both of you can't be having the same nightmare," my mom said slowly. We stayed in my brother's room that night, all of us. Dad set up chairs. They were going to watch, going to prove there was nothing there. Around 2 a.m., I saw her first. She appeared at the window gradually, fading into visibility. The white dress, the pale skin, the dark hair. "There," I whispered. "Right there." My parents looked. For a long moment, nobody said anything. "I don't see anything," my dad finally said. "She's right there, at the window." My mom stared hard at the window. I think I see something. A shape, maybe." "You see her?" "I don't know. Maybe. It's very faint." My brother started crying again. "Make her go away!" The woman at the window raised her hand, pressed it to the glass. I could see the print of her palm clearly. "She's touching the window," I said. My dad got up and walked to the window, stood right in front of it. The woman was still there, her hand overlapping with where he was standing. "There's nothing here," he said, but his voice was uncertain now. He unlocked the window and opened it. Cold night air rushed in. We all looked out at the empty yard below. No ladder, no tree, nothing. "Close it," my mom said. "Close it now." He closed and locked the window. The woman was gone. We didn't sleep the rest of that night. In the morning, my parents called someone, not a doctor this time, a priest. He came that afternoon, blessed both our rooms, blessed the whole house, said prayers in Latin, left us with crosses to hang above our windows. Sometimes the dead don't move on. They remain attached to a place or to people. Children are more sensitive. They can see things adults can't. "Why would she attach to our children?" my mom asked. "I don't know, but if she's not gone after the blessing, call me again." She wasn't gone. That night, both my brother and I saw her, same as before. The blessing had done nothing. My parents tried everything. Had the house inspected for carbon monoxide leaks, thinking maybe we were being poisoned. Had my brother and me tested for everything they could think of, moved us into the same room, hoping we'd feel safer together. She appeared at whichever window we were near, like she was following us. After a year, my parents gave up trying to stop it. They just accepted it, made us promise to tell them if she ever did anything besides watch. if she ever tried to come inside. She never did. She stayed at the windows, always watching, always sad. When I was 12, we moved to a different house. I hoped that would be the end of it. The first night in the new house, I woke up and saw her at my new bedroom window. She'd followed us. My brother saw her too, in his room. We didn't even bother telling our parents this time. What would be the point? I'm 34 now, and I haven't lived with my parents in 16 years. I've lived in 7 different apartments and 2 different houses. She's at every window, every place I've ever lived. I'm used to her now. She's just there, part of my life. I've tried to communicate with her, tried to help her move on. She never responds, just watches with that sad face. My brother has her too. We talk about it sometimes, compare experiences. She's at his windows too, has been his whole life, just like mine. We've never found out who she is or what she wants. Maybe she's a ghost, maybe we're both crazy. Maybe it's some kind of shared delusion that started when we were kids. But I know what I see, every night, at every window. The white lady, watching, always watching, forever sad. And I've learned to live with being watched by something I can't understand, can't escape, can't help. Some things you just have to accept, even when they make no sense, even when they follow you everywhere you go. I drove up to see my friend Derek at his new place on a Friday afternoon. He'd moved there about 6 months earlier, a cabin in the mountains, hours from the nearest town. He'd always talked about getting away from the city, living somewhere remote, and he'd finally done it. The drive was beautiful, winding mountain roads, dense forest, barely any other cars. His place was at the end of a long private road, tucked into the trees with a view of the valley below. Derek came out when he heard my car. He looked good, thinner, tanned, relaxed. Mountain life was agreeing with him. "Good to see you, man," he said, gripping my hand. "How was the drive?" "Long, but worth it. This place is incredible." He showed me around. The cabin was bigger than I expected, well-maintained, cozy. 2 bedrooms, a big living room with a stone fireplace, a kitchen that looked recently updated. "You did good," I told him. He smiled, but something about it seemed forced. "Yeah, it's great. Really peaceful up here." We had dinner. He'd grilled steaks and caught up. He seemed good, happy even, but there was something underneath, a nervousness I couldn't quite identify. After dinner, we were sitting on the porch with beers when he got up suddenly. "I should show you where you're sleeping," he said. "Guest room is upstairs." We went inside. The upstairs hallway had 3 doors: bathroom, his bedroom, and the guest room at the far end. The hallway was dark. He hadn't turned on the light. "Here," he said, stopping at the guest room door. He opened it and flicked on the light inside. "Should be comfortable. Let me know if you need anything." "Thanks." I noticed he was standing in the doorway, not going past it. His eyes flicked down the dark hallway toward the other end, then back to me. "Derek, you okay?" "Yeah, fine. Just tired. We should probably get to bed soon anyway. Early morning tomorrow if you want to hike." It was only 9 p.m. We usually stayed up later than this. But I didn't push it. "Sure, sounds good." He said goodnight and went to his room. I heard his door close, lock. I got ready for bed, but I wasn't tired yet. I lay there thinking about the way Derek had acted in the hallway, the way he'd avoided looking at the far end. Around 11 p.m., I got up to use the bathroom, opened my door, and stepped into the hallway. It was dark, really dark. The kind of dark where you can't see your hand in front of your face. I felt along the wall for the light switch, found it, flipped it. Nothing happened. The light didn't come on. Bulb must be out, I thought. I used my phone flashlight instead, illuminating the hallway. There were 4 doors, not 3. I stopped, confusion hitting me. I'd seen 3 doors earlier: bathroom, Derek's room, and the guest room. But now there was a 4th door at the far end of the hallway, the end Derek had avoided looking at. I walked toward it slowly. The door was old, different from the others. The wood was darker. The handle was brass instead of brushed nickel. I reached for the handle. Don't. I spun around. Derek was standing in his doorway. His face was pale. Don't open that door, he said. What's in there? Just don't, please. Derek, what the hell is going on? He looked at the door, then back at me. Can we talk in my room? We went into his room. He locked the door behind us, sat on his bed with his head in his hands. I should have told you not to come, he said. I wanted company, wanted to pretend everything was normal, but it's not. What's not normal? The house, the door. There's something wrong with this place. What do you mean? He took a deep breath. When I moved in, there were 3 doors upstairs, the 3 you saw earlier. Then, about 2 months ago, the 4th door appeared. I woke up one morning and it was just there, like it had always been there. That's not possible. I know, but it happened. And at night, when it's dark, it's always there. In the daytime, it disappears. I stared at him. Derek, that's insane. I know, but it's true. During the day, there are 3 doors. At night, there are 4. Have you opened it? He shook his head quickly. No, hell no. Why not? Because there's something behind it. I've heard it. Sounds like movement, like someone walking around. And sometimes I hear breathing. You need to move. Get out of this place. I've tried. I've packed my stuff twice, but when I try to leave, I can't. Not permanently. I make it to town, stay there for a night, and then I have to come back, like something's pulling me. This is crazy. I know. We sat there in silence. I didn't know what to say. My rational mind was screaming that this was impossible, that Derek was having some kind of breakdown. But I'd seen the door. I'd counted 4 doors where there should have been 3. Let me see it again, I said. No, stay here. Wait until morning. I need to see it. Against his protests, I left his room and went back into the hallway. The 4th door was still there at the far end. I walked up to it, put my ear against the wood. At first, nothing. Then I heard it, breathing, slow and steady, coming from the other side. I backed away. Derek was right. There was something behind that door. We need to open it, I said. We need to know what it is. Are you out of your mind? You can't live like this. Whatever it is, we deal with it. And if it's something we can't deal with, then we get the hell out and call someone. Police, a priest, I don't care, but we have to know. He looked terrified, but after a long moment, he nodded. Okay, but we wait until morning. If it's only there at night, maybe it can't come out during the day. We stayed in his room until dawn. Neither of us slept. When sunlight started filtering through the windows, we went back to the hallway. 3 doors. The 4th one was gone. Just blank wall where it had been. See? Derek said. It's only there at night. Show me what's on the other side of that wall. We went outside, walked around the house. The upstairs extended over the porch. We counted the windows. Derek's room, the guest room, the bathroom. There wasn't space for another room. The wall where the door appeared at night was an exterior wall. Whatever was behind that door wasn't a room in the house. It was something else. I'm leaving, Derek said. I can't do this anymore. Let me help you pack. We spent the day packing his stuff, loading it into his truck. He seemed better with the decision made, lighter. Come with me, he said. Don't stay here tonight. I'll leave right after you. Just want to clean up a bit. He looked reluctant, but nodded. Okay, but don't stay past sunset. Get out before it gets dark. He drove away around 4 p.m. I waved as his truck disappeared down the road. I should have left right then, but I had to know, had to see what happened. I waited. Sunset came around 7 p.m. The light faded slowly from the cabin. I stood in the upstairs hallway with my phone flashlight, watching the far wall. As darkness settled, the door faded into existence. Gradually, like a photograph developing. The old wood, the brass handle. I walked up to it, pressed my ear against it again. Breathing. Still there. Maybe closer now. I reached for the handle. My hand was shaking. The breathing stopped. In the silence, I heard a voice from the other side of the door. Quiet, hoarse, barely audible. "Open it." I yanked my hand back. The voice came again. "Please, open it." It sounded human, scared, desperate. "Who are you?" I asked. "I don't know. I don't remember. Please let me out." "How long have you been in there?" "I don't know. Please. It's dark here. It's so dark." My hand went back to the handle. Against every instinct, I turned it. The door opened. Darkness. Complete and absolute. Not the darkness of a room without light, but something deeper. Something wrong. And in that darkness, something moved toward me. I slammed the door shut, backed away. The handle started turning from the inside. I ran, down the stairs, out the front door, got in my car and drove away, didn't look back. I tried calling Derek, no answer. Tried again the next day, nothing. A week later, I drove back up. His truck was in the driveway. The cabin looked normal in the daylight. I knocked, no answer. Tried the door, unlocked. Went inside. Derek? The house was silent. All his stuff was still there. He'd unpacked. I went upstairs, 3 doors in the hallway. I opened his bedroom door. Derek was sitting on his bed, staring at the wall. "Derek?" He didn't respond, didn't look at me, just kept staring. I walked around to see his face. His eyes were open but empty, vacant. "Derek, can you hear me?" Nothing. I called 911. They came and took him to a hospital. The doctors said he was in some kind of catatonic state. They couldn't explain it. No drugs in his system, no head injury, no medical reason. He's still there. Been there for 3 months now. Hasn't spoken, hasn't responded to anything. I told the police about the cabin, about the door. They went up to investigate. Found nothing unusual. 3 bedrooms, 3 doors in the upstairs hallway. Everything normal. But I know what I saw. I know what happened. Derek opened that door. He went back after I left and he opened it, and whatever was behind it took something from him. I haven't been back to the cabin. Never will. But sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I swear I can hear breathing coming from somewhere in my apartment. And I'm terrified that one night I'll get up and find a 4th door where there shouldn't be one, waiting for me to open it, waiting to take what it took from Derek, waiting in the dark.